Welcome to tonight's event, First Gen Origin Stories Honoring Our Beginnings. This event will recognize both the roots and the future of first generation support here at LMU. And this event will also celebrate two big milestones. One, we're going to celebrate the First to Go program's 15th anniversary, aka First to Go's quinceañera. And then secondly, this event will also highlight the founder of the First to Go program, Dr. LT Rease Miles, and celebrate her recently published book, Smart Girl, a First Gen Origin Story. So, by the end of tonight's program, we'll reflect on the First to Go program's impact, celebrate its people, and imagine the stories yet to come. Tonight's event would be impossible without the leadership and vision of Dr. Lexi Pineda Soto. Right, so before we begin, I'd like for all of us to quickly acknowledge the land where we all find ourselves this evening. So this event has been organized at Loyola Marymount University and at the William H. Henley Library, so we use this specific location to base our land acknowledgement. The land that the library sits on is the unceded land of the Tongva peoples, who, in the face of ongoing settler colonialism, continue to claim their place and act as stewards of their ancestral lands as they have for the past 8,000 years. These lands and waters reach from the Pacific Ocean all the way into what is now known as San Bernardino County. The whole of the Los Angeles Basin is unceded territory. I ask that you take a moment and think about what it would mean to take responsibility for one's presence on stolen land. I also encourage you to learn more about this history by going to native-land.ca. Okay, now I wanted to give you a quick overview of tonight's event because we are not messing around tonight. We have a busy agenda, okay? So in a moment, I'm going to welcome my librarian colleague, Liz Cepeda, who's going to talk a little bit about Dr. Rease Miles and her latest book. Then we're going to hear from Dr. Rease Miles herself to give us an overview and a book reading as well. And then my colleague Liz and Dr. Rease Miles are going to have a quick chat here on this couch. They're going to talk it up, chop it up. After that, we're going to have closing remarks by our very own Sion Nelson. And then towards the end, we're going to have a book signing in the lobby. We have free copies of the book available. That's right, get it down and get it autographed tonight as well. So Dr. LT will be signing those books as well. And then finally, we are going to be highlighting an exhibit that's outside in the lobby atrium. So it's a first generation exhibit, very colorful. I've always loved those exhibits. So thank you once again, Lexi, for putting on that exhibit. And then also towards the back of the room, there is a crafty corner to make your own first gen merch as well, in addition to some already made free library merchandise as well. Okay, so now before I invite my friend Liz, I did want to share a quick personal story about my relationship with First to Go. Back in the late 1990s, I was a first generation student right here at LMU. Yeah. Thank you. Was it easy? Hell no. It was not easy at all. So fast forward to becoming when I got hired here at the library as a library assistant back in 2010, I heard about this thing called First to Go. And somehow, some way, I knew exactly what those words meant as soon as I heard them, because it was something that I could have really used back when I was a student. So as soon as I first heard about this, I was like, who's in charge? Getting in contact with this person, this LT person, I want to be a mentor in this program. And just in case anybody doesn't believe me.
Receipts.
This is the very first shirt that the First to Go program ever came out. Pretty bold to make it a tank top, I think. So the last thing that I'll say is whenever anybody asks me what's like my favorite part about working at LMU, well, here's the thing. Librarians, we are invited to join faculty on stage during graduation, right? So I've always said this. John behind the camera. He could be he could attest to this. My favorite part about working at LMU is high-fiving or fist-bumping a first-gen student as they're crossing the stage at graduation day. That's the best part about working here. And so that's all. Thanks to you. Thank you. There you go. All right. So again, thank you for giving me and so many others the opportunity to mentor our first-gen students. Thank you, LT. So with that, let me begin welcoming Liz Cepeda. So her quick bio. Liz Cepeda, pronouns she, ella, is originally from Santa Ana, California. She is the university archivist here at Loyola Marymount University. She holds a master's in library and information science from the University of Arizona's School of Information and is a Knowledge River Scholar. Trust me, that's a big deal. In 2018, she published an article entitled Queering the Archive, Transforming the Archival Process, which was published in Disclosure, the Journal of Social Theory. When not working, Liz likes to go on hikes with her partner, twin baby boys, and her dog, Monita. She also likes to listen to audiobooks and cross-stitch. Can you all please help me welcome Liz Cepeda?
Hello everyone, thank you all for being here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I feel so tall, I don't know why. Okay, I want to take a moment to thank you all for being here, but also to really thank LT Rease Miles for all the incredible work you've done with first generation students. As a first generation queer Chicana with parents from Nayarit, Mexico, I understand firsthand how essential mentors and programs like First to Go are in navigating the academic journey. While reading your book, one statement truly resonated with me, quote, "Our stories matter," unquote. And they absolutely do. And I hope that this can be an ongoing theme of our celebration tonight, but also goes home with you as well. I want to briefly talk about the LT Rease Miles collection that we have here at Archives and Special Collection, and some pieces are actually featured in the exhibit outside. And especially, and I will always talk about these, the work journals. I often revisit these to witness LT, really witness LT's process through like creating First to Go, which is like Feliz Quinceañera, as well as her reflections of daily life at LMU. These to-do lists, quick meeting notes, reminders, and even her entry about her last day at LMU come together to tell a powerful story of who she was on this campus. They capture her voice and agency in a way that makes your legacy truly come to life in the archive. So thank you, LT. Yeah. Thank you for your radical vulnerability and fearlessness in sharing such an intimate parts of yourself in these journals and in your book, really. To everyone else, really want you to think about reflecting and like, how do you document your own history? And I invite you to do what Latanya did with her work journals. So we have work journals for you. So in collaboration with the College of Fine Arts and Communication and the Inclusive History and Images Project, we actually have some journals available for you all if you want to take home. They have some prompts. We invite you to, when you're done with them, donate them to the archive or donate them to your own archive. So you can have just a day-to-day experience of your time at LMU. You know, oftentimes so much of it is digital, so having that written is really special as well. So come at the end, they'll be right here, so come and hang out and get some. So just wanted to do a quick spiel about the archive, because we always want to talk about the archive, especially because as people of color, we're not represented oftentimes. So, and it's my really deep honor and excitement to introduce LT, and I have your bio right here, so I'm really excited to read it. As a first generation college student, or college graduate, and thought leader in higher education, LT Rease Miles, PhD, has been instrumental in establishing successful programs for first-gen students at both UCLA and Loyola Marymount University. In her many leadership roles, including the co-founder of My Tribe Media and co-founder of Patty Health, she advises institutions on first-gen student experiences. She regularly champions initiatives for non-traditional adult learners and contributes to scholarly discourse of first-gen experiences. Her influence extends to the digital sphere, where she has co-founded several online communities, including a national Facebook group that has empowered first-generation students. She earned a PhD in American Literature from UCLA, and her research interests include the hidden curriculum in higher education, narratives about first-generation college students, experience, and the representation of first-generation students in popular culture. Her memoir, Smart Girls 2025, focuses on her first-gen origin story and her love for popular culture. And she is also a co-editor of a forthcoming book about the Black first-generation experience through Emerald Publishing, and a separate book project on representation of the first-generation college student experience in mass media and popular culture through My Tribe Media. It is my honor and pleasure to invite LT over to give us some reading and some delicious fun.
So I messed up the video, so I'm gonna have to take the video again. And as I say that, it's so beautiful to see everyone here tonight. It's just like a gorgeous space. And also we were joking, like, oh, this is what Friends would be like if they had people of color on the show. So let me do this video one more time. If you all could wave, I promise I'll get it right this time. Woo! Yay, great. Thank you so much. I got it this time. Okay, so I am gonna do a reading for you all, but let me just tell you a little bit about the book, a little backstory about how it came to be. Even though I've been journaling and have a special collection here, and even though I have written other books and a scholar and all that, I've never thought about writing my own memoir. I think it's probably true for many of us. We may think that our stories don't matter, right? Or that you have to be Beyonce's mother or Prince Harry in order to write a memoir that anyone is interested in. So that's just a common narrative, especially for folks of color, working class folks, and other marginalized communities. So it was my daughter Zoe, I know some of you know her or know of her, who had been telling me consistently that I should write my own book. And I was like, no, I'm her mom. First of all, I'm her mom, so I'm gonna say no, right? I was like, girl, no, I'm not gonna do that. But it wasn't until, here, I can move this that way you all can see. Better? There we go. It wasn't until I talked to another woman of color who also identifies as first generation, who had written her memoir. Her name is Erica Alfaro. I was interviewing her, and she said to me, LaTanya, you should write the book that you needed as a student. And it was just something about her framing of that really, it really clicked for me. And I was like, okay, I could do that, right? I'm not thinking about New York like bestsellers list or anything like that. Just kind of mentoring little T. So just so you all know, LT is a school name, or it came about in high school. I'm not LT in my family. Those of you who read the book know I'm T. And so I set out to tell the story of how someone who created first generation programs, got to college, right? But then as I started to outline it, I realized that the story really wasn't what my family said to me about college. My family said to me, LaTanya, you are smart. And then the question became, well, how does a smart girl get to college? And so that's where the title comes from. And there's a comic book reference, superhero reference as well. Wonder Woman, Superman, smart girl. So there you go. So I'm going to read. So DJ, can you give some context for us? A little bit of Earth, Wind, Fire maybe in the background. So if you have a copy of the book and you want to read along, I'm on page 7. And it's very early in the book, and it's by design. So, let me say this too. Keep in mind, I'm going to stress this, okay? My degrees are in English, guys, okay? Literature. So just like with any text, though, there's a level of curation involved, there's a level of craft involved. And so, yeah, there's some things you're going to get from, like, content-wise, but I hope that you also are sensitive to some of the imagery that I create, the analogies, the symbolism, right out the gate with that prologue where I'm scared to get on an escalator. Know that the escalator is symbolic, right? So early on, though, I wanted to establish who my family is. So you get a sense of where I came from. Also keep in mind when you're looking at the titles of the chapters, they tend to have multiple meanings and allusions. So Speaker of the House, of course, is referring to government, right? The leader of the party, but it's also about a voice and being the speaker or the representative of my house. The last thing I'll say before I start reading is that one term that became really important to me later that I didn't know until after I completed graduate school was this idea of being a cultural broker. And that's the person in the family who speaks on behalf of the family. And I'll just tell you right now, I don't come from an immigrant background. English and African American English are the only languages that my family speaks, and still I was a translator for my family. That's a very common experience for first gens, and some of that may resonate with some of you. So I just wanted to set the stage for you as I read, and DJ, whenever you're ready. So this is in this would have been like 1976, 77. Little T was growing up in her family home in Alexandria, Virginia, right outside of Washington, D.C., where I lived with my grandparents while my mom, my single mom, was in the military. Sorry. All right, page 7, here we go. I'm going to read you for about 10 minutes. It was determined pretty early on that I was gifted, especially when it came to reading and language arts. I was so advanced that I got to work with Miss Stein all by myself instead of being assigned a work group like my classmates. She came up with independent projects for me to do, my favorite being writing letters to Mom telling her all about my first grade life and all that she was missing back in Alexandria. I described adventures with my best friend Leticia, also nicknamed T like me, and her siblings as we ran throughout the neighborhood playing kickball right in the street. I recapped the latest episodes of Good Times. I told her how badly I wanted zip sneakers because they absolutely would make me run faster and jump higher. I added bright, colorful stickers all over the envelopes that contained my letters, and Miss Stein mailed them herself. Let me pause here for a second. Where's Generation X? Is Gen X represented here at all? Any Gen Xers? Okay, this chapter is for us. That's like, the book is for us. Really. I doubt there was any talk of college at home, but it was clear that I was different in a good way, and that I was going to make something of myself, according to my relatives and a few of my teachers. My family had decided that I was a prodigy before I even entered school because I was inquisitive, precocious, highly verbal, and well-read. Being placed in a gifted program and later honors and AP courses just confirmed what my mother, grandparents, aunts, and uncles already knew to be true. But being smart at school was different than being the family intellectual, where I was supported and encouraged. Standing on the edge of platform 9 3/4, I often found myself physically separated from my classmates or my circle of friends, leaving them to go to some better class or school or situation that challenged me. While I was happy to nerd out, I was also ambivalent about being away from my crew and sometimes my family, a dilemma that was only beginning in that first grade classroom. When I was in kindergarten, I stood out in another way. At this time, I lived with Mom in El Paso, Texas, and I attended Eastwood Heights Elementary. I was one of few Black kids in my class, and I regularly wore my hair in cornrows. Some white boys, I don't remember their names, teased me about this style, sneering that I had worms in my head. I was smarter than those dumb boys, and they knew it. But the name calling often made me turn inward, not wanting to draw attention to myself in class, even when I knew the answers. I swallowed tears during lunchtime, my watery eyes steady on my Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids lunchbox and nothing else. At times, I preferred a cloak of invisibility, but my academic performance, typically high marks in elementary school, and the approval of adults would always set me apart from everyone. I felt shy in school and I did not actively seek attention. Rather, I preferred to stay away from the spotlight. but I stood out anyway. Regularly, I was a teacher's pet student and often was nudged to perform in some way, whether it was in a school assembly or grade-wide spelling bee. Teachers and administrators regarded me as a model student, which seemed rare for Black pupils, it seemed. I was like a cyborg, someone to be studied and monitored. Announcer, LT Rease Miles, first grader, a Black working class girl raised by a single mother and her grandparents. Gentlemen, we can rebuild her. We have the technology. I knew that I was different from my peers, including my cousins somehow, but more importantly, I knew that I had a responsibility to do well. In school, not just for myself, but for the whole family, my block, and even the race, and some of you may be feeling that now. This is what it meant to be smart. As a designated family representative, I was aware that I had opportunities that my mother, grandmother, aunties, and cousins did not. My success or failure was everyone's success and cause for widespread celebration. I felt the weight of that responsibility like a Girl Scout. I wanted to make my family proud and to support them the way that they had supported me. Better, stronger, faster. This recognition was evident as early as second grade. Grandma Daisy and Uncle Dale, still in high school at the time, were excited when they found out that my class was taking a field trip to the Alexandria City Hall and that we would have an opportunity to meet with the mayor. Our homework was to come up with a question that we would ask him. On the surface, Maury Elementary School seemed egalitarian. Students from all backgrounds and walks of life were in the same physical space, including the children of congressmen who got to claim that they were of the people because they sent their children to public schools. But there was a clear racialized hierarchy already forming and subtle clues about who was bright and who wasn't. The Peters, Mats, and Megs of the school were separated from the Keishas, Bufords, and Donnells within the same classroom, divided up by reading level and giftedness. And then there was me, in the same math group as White Peter, lover of some weird movie called Star Wars, but walking home to our predominantly Black and working class neighborhood with Donnell, whose prized possession was a pair of nunchucks. These divisions started early and lasted all the way through high school. Regularly, I traversed between worlds, slipping from one reality to another, like crossing a hidden threshold where the rules, the language, and even the expectations of who I was supposed to be shifted with every step. Nah, T, all these other kids are gonna ask stupid questions. Unc rubs his hands together after I explain the prompt. You gotta come up with something good. I was puzzled, like what? He and my grandmother looked at each other knowingly. We'll help you, they said in unison. Uncle Dale pushed aside the mail, Grandma's various tchotchkes, and an array of toys that had piled up on the dining room table. There was always a bevy of kids running throughout our 3-story row house. The Brady Bunch played in the background and provided the soundtrack to our planning meeting. Helping me with school meant something very specific in my household. If it was just regular old homework, math problems and such, I was left alone. No one looked over anything unless I asked them to, as it was a given that I knew what I was doing. But if an adult volunteered to help me, then that was a different matter. This usually meant they had a point to prove or that they needed to set a white teacher straight. For instance, Mom helped me when it came to a take-home project about Egypt, making sure that all of the figures were brown-skinned and had broad noses and that they did not look like Elizabeth Taylor. White people are thieves, she told me matter-of-factly. Knowing what was at stake, Dale and Grandma coached me in preparation for the momentous occasion. Finally, the big day came. Surely I would have worn my best Buster Brown shoes, complete with knee socks, neat cornrows, and colorful barrettes that matched my blouses. A very 70s thing, you guys. As Mom did not play when it came to school clothes, whether she was there or not. My classmates and I toured the grounds, fidgeted while the teachers attempted to explain the wonders of a democracy. a stolen concept Mom had instructed me. And finally, we're shuffled into a small room that reminded me of a library, my happy place. The mayor was patient and gracious, but I suspected he wasn't used to being around a bunch of 7-year-olds. And sure enough, Unc was right. The questions were fairly lightweight. How many pets do you have? What's your favorite color? Do you like cake or pie? And then it was my turn. I stood up and held my wide-ruled notebook paper steady as I cleared my voice and read the question that Grandma and Uncle Dale coached me on. When are you going to pass a law in favor of rent control so that poor people can pay their rent? The room fell completely silent at first. Within seconds, one teacher rushed toward me and another headed toward Mayor Mann, shielding him from my audacity. A classmate whispered to another, "What'd she say?" "I don't know." It didn't matter that I had no idea what rent control was either. But I stood there politely while the mayor, now sweaty and turning pinker by the minute, stammered his way through a response. And it didn't make any difference that since 1950, the Code of Virginia has prohibited rent control and no mayor has the authority to overturn the law. What mattered most was that I asked the question. Uncle Dale and Grandma recognized that the average poor person or the average Black person would never get an opportunity to speak with a government official. So it was my responsibility to speak on behalf of others who could not be there. I understood that I was not to merely complete the task, but to seize the moment when it was presented to me. Most importantly, my family prepared me and would take the heat for any consequences that occurred if a teacher thought I was being too sassy, for instance. I was greeted with high fives and cheers when I came back home that day. "What'd he say, T? What'd he say?" Uncle Dale was nearly shouting. "I bet that white man started stuttering, huh?" Grandma laughed and laughed as she wrangled another one of her charges from hiding under the table. I shrugged one shoulder, still wondering what rent control was. Then I changed my clothes and ran outside to play, having successfully completed the real assignment.
You know where the mic is?
I was about to get
Let me sit down.
There's the baby over here. Okay.
Do I need a copy of the book? Am I gonna get quizzed on this book or? All right.
We're waiting for the microphone. Thank you.
Yes.
This is on. Okay. Can you hear me? Okay,
Yes.
sorry, it wasn't on, so I wasn't sure. Hi everyone. Thank you all again for being here. So we're just gonna do a Q&A with a few questions, and I'm gonna start out with what you just read. Did you? It's on? No?
Can y'all hear me now?
Yeah.
Is it on?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna start with the chapter Speaker of the House question.
Okay.
Also, shout out to Lexi for your support on these questions. You're wonderful. Couldn't do this without you. Okay.
We love you.
We love you. From a young age, you were identified as an academic prodigy. How did it feel to be consistently removed from your classroom communities because you needed a more advanced academic experience? I would also add, how did it feel to also be moving around so much because you were, yeah.
Okay, multiple parts to that. Let me provide context for those who don't know. I forgot to say this at the beginning. So by 10th grade, I had been to 9 different schools. That's a lot of schools. And those folks who work in social work would let you know that that's a strong indicator of instability. Folks who move around that much have less likelihood to graduate from high school, much less go on to college. So there was a lot of instability, a lot of going in and out of different spaces, sometimes within the same school year. It gave me this really unique perspective though, because the rules would change quite a bit depending on the school, like the context is different. So I also got to see what it was like to be smart in different spaces. Like who was considered smart, like changed all of a sudden. One of the reasons though I wrote the book is because oftentimes the first gen identity is over associated with struggle, and our parents and communities are over associated with naivete or disconnect. Like somehow they don't care about they don't know about certain things, or they don't care about education. So I wrote, part of the reason why I wrote the book was to show what my family did know, right? And while they didn't know a lot of the processes, and they'll tell you to this day, one thing they knew was that I was smart. And so I went into school actually with a lot of confidence, and people don't talk about this enough with first gen students. Why would I not be confident? I am the go-to person in my family, right? Why would college be any different? And yet, like I said, all this shifting, first of all, it gave me this superpower in a way to adapt. But as you can imagine, just with that age group and trying to make friends and make connections and get a boyfriend and all that, that part was that part was really difficult. Yeah. What was the second part of your question?
It was like constantly being removed from classes.
Oh yeah.
From your Black friends and students and yeah.
Yeah, and so what was weird too, and you'll see it in the book, that there were times that I was actually in all Black schools, and even then told that I shouldn't talk to other Black students because they weren't smart, and then go over the bridge and be in a more racially mixed school, and then all of a sudden I'm one of few Black students in an all-white class in a school that's predominantly Black. Crazy, right? But I think some of you may have experienced the same thing. So for me, I just wanted to have friends, you know what I mean? Like it was really hard moving all the time and having to start over all the time as a young person, as a teenager. Just when you think about adolescent theory, development, that was definitely a challenge.
I appreciate that you theorize your life. It's beautiful.
Oh. Not at the time when I was going through. I just want a friend, you know.
It was really fun to read the Fangirl chapter. If you haven't read it or you're going to read it, you're going to really enjoy it. I mentioned earlier that I really appreciated that your mom let you listen to Erotic City, like Frank Piper's, like nothing. And in that chapter, something that stood out was that as you were growing up, because you were like such an authority in your family, you often didn't hear no, but you heard figure it out. How does this mentality follow you now?
Man, so let me say something first. I write this book from the perspective of how I felt at the time. Okay, so you get like the teen angst. Let me acknowledge another LMU grad, Genesis Montalvo, who was my editor actually. And one of the things we talked about pretty early on is the voice in the book, right? And we wanted to make sure I wasn't writing as like Dr. LT, like, oh, this is how first year student, like really feeling that angst. And so I really wanted to like my mom is the villain sometimes. But that, when you're a teenager, your parents are the villains. Like, oh, she doesn't know what she's talking about, right? And so I was trying to really lean on that. Okay, remind me of the question again.
It was that you could hear no.
Oh, yeah, thank you. So I was annoyed. That was my point. I was so annoyed. I got lost track of that. So I did not have a helicopter parent. Okay, I had the opposite of that, which was like, you're smart, you'll figure it out. Like, damn, woman, like, can you help me out with some stuff, So I think at the time, I was probably a bit resentful, right? Because I wish I had some more help. I think what a good consequence of it is that obviously I became really resourceful and independent. My mom did not weigh in on my college major. So I did not have a parent that was like, what are you doing with that? And what kind of job? She was just like, oh, you'll figure it out. So I think there was something good that became good in that I was not afraid to take risks. In my case, I wasn't going to have to go home and explain to my mom all these different things. She was like, oh, you'll get it, So I think that was turning a tough situation into something positive. So I know there's a range of of experiences that we have in our families and families of origin. That was my situation, which was very, very hands-off.
So follow-up question,
Okay.
How was your parenting style after having a hands-off parent?
Now I know what to look, because there are certain things my mom actually should have been more involved in. I mean, it's a joke. Like, you're talking about the fangirl chapter, which is when, it doesn't ruin anything, you guys, but that's all about me going to a Prince concert when I was 12 years old. And this was like Dirty Nasty Prince. This isn't like, oh, Diamonds and Pearls Prince. This is like Prince humping the bed kind of thing, right? And so here I am, like 12, I'm the only teenager in this warehouse, right? With my mom is only 17 years older than me, okay? So she's like a sister in some ways. And so there's sometimes you're like, what the hell was she thinking, right? There were certain things that should have been more involved in that didn't happen, but like I said, was able to turn it around into a positive. Yeah. But hold on. But as a parent, so I would not. I've taken my daughter to see Halsey and 5 Seconds of Summer, but not. I would I'll have a certain level of responsibility, but I would say I'm definitely a parent that encourages my children to pursue their passions. I did get that from my mom. Yeah.
That's awesome. So in E185,
shout out to the library.
In this chapter, you mentioned that that someone like us or you often lives being reminded of your own marginality, usually having to teach in spaces where we're hoping to learn from. How can first-gen plus students survive these spaces, disrupt these spaces, and hopefully creatively, that was a word that ESLs can heal from the spaces?
Such a Lexi question, right?
Yes, it is. We love you, Lexi.
Oh, goodness. I'm going to theorize.
Theorize.
Okay. Oftentimes, the first-gen experience is characterized by lack and deficit, what we don't know. And what's not talked about enough is what can come out of not knowing a situation, or not seeing it, or experiencing it for the first time. You can be a disruptor because you haven't seen it before. You don't know what it's supposed to look like, right? Or look at this coffee shop experience that we're having here. Have any of you been to an author reading before? And who's their first time hearing an author read? Look at that. This is setting the bar for you. This is not how it's done, y'all. Typically, you're in these little cramped up seats next to each other, theater style. Look at what Lexi has done for you, and you didn't know that. This is your first experience. So what can happen then, and this is what I've seen happen time and time again. And Ray, I'm going to shout out Chris in just a second. Now you're going to go into another experience. You're like, where's my DJ? Where are the colors, the brightness? Where are my nachos? That's going to be your experience going forward. That's what we got to talk about more about the first gen. Oh, they don't know. We got to teach them etiquette and how to greet people and whatnot. So Ray's first mentee in First to Go is Chris. And Chris, he's one of the smartest people I know, such an intellectual. He would hate me for saying this because he tried to be all cool and whatnot, right? But I remember it was his first week or two on campus. And I remember him coming into my office and he had seen maybe Greek letters or something, or I don't know what it was. I think it was either Greek letters or Greek letter organizations and their paraphernalia or something. He was like, LT, why can't we have that for First to Go? He's like, where's my First to Go fit? Where's my First to Go? That's how we got the t-shirt, because of Chris. He hadn't seen it, right? He wasn't aware of Greek letters, But this is why y'all got 1,000,001 t-shirts to this day because of Chris, who said, where is my first to-go shirt, right? So that's how I choose to think of it. We gotta stop thinking about lack and what we don't know and all that type of stuff and think of all the creativity that can come out of not knowing a situation and reading it differently.
I love that. That's so beautiful. I have one last question, and I think we might have time for others if they want to ask questions.
Please, I
right?
want to hear from
Maybe? Okay.
Okay, we got her.
So, last question. I'm going to the epilogue because it's my favorite part of the book.
Oh, thank you.
It's just so beautiful. So, I mean, the whole book is wonderful, but like the epilogue is so nice. And so, in your epilogue,
Yeah.
you mentioned that your legacy lives in the small moments that made you unforgettable. What inspires this reflection, and how do you personally define a lasting legacy? No pressure.
Damn it. Let me say something about the construction of the book.
Yes, please.
I'm pretty sure I did not write that last, by the way.
I love it.
I think I may have written inches last. I think I may have written the prologue last. Because you have to know what you're writing, right, to go back. But what I wanted to accomplish in the epilogue is kind of like what happens is I go back and tell you and reveal some things that had been there all along, to be honest. And so there's just like a moment of reflection there, in that the epilogue is called Legacy, and legacy is just really important to me. Being a first gen, having children, watching them grow up on a college campus, literally grow up on a college campus, right? So I just wanted to document like the significance of that. And I also wanted to, like, this book is called Smart Girl, but when you see this epilogue, I tell you that my goal was to be fast. My goal was to beat everyone in a foot race, right, is what I say. My goal was to beat any boy. That's who I was. I wasn't just like, sometimes people have this mistaken belief that like, oh, you were this like A+ student that was type A. No, I wasn't. I really wasn't. I just wanted to be fast. People say, oh, why do you love the Flash? That might be the answer right there. And so I just wanted to kind of challenge a little bit what SMART is and what my goals were, and then also celebrate art at the end. So I'll leave that to you to find out. But it also is a recap of my experience in school, in elementary school. And I go back and talk about the things that I had learned, and you'll see in the book. So really, you gotta read the book more than once, because it's not on the surface, you guys. There's a lot of things you don't pick up on until after you read it a few times. But there are some moments that I talk about even in graduate school. And when you get to the epilogue, you'll find out where I learned that thing. I don't know if you picked up on that. Okay.
If I did, I have to reread it.
Okay. So it was a good opportunity to recap that. And I also want to thank Genesis for really pushing me on that ending. That wasn't the last sentence wasn't the original last sentence. She really wanted me to polish and sharpen it and not end on a cliche. So I want to thank her for that.
Yeah. So wait, how do you define a legacy for yourself? No, I'm not. Or like what would, or for someone else? Like, I mean, you already have such a beautiful legacy. Like, how would you define a legacy for somebody? Especially for like people of color, like we're not taught that we have legacy.
Yeah, I don't have a good answer. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
Okay, so like
I will
really
tell you, it is important to this is what you and I would agree on.
Yes.
It is important to document, and I think too often other people tell you how to document. Or they'll tell you like, oh, get off of social media, where have you. That's for you to decide. If that's your place, then that's your place, and that's important as well. So for some of us, it's social media. Some of us, it's journaling or writing or artwork or something visual. All of that is important. I think there's a level of intentionality about it, so that's just not under your bed or wherever you put it or what have you.
just don't put it in the vent, or in your event.
What did you say?
Don't put it in your event, like where the fluctuation of temperature is bad.
Yeah. So yeah, learn those types of things so that it does get passed down. But I think that's the main thing. I'm just I'm in a mindset right now where I'm really thinking about how I curate my experiences and letting my daughter and my son know, like, hey, this thing is for you. I've been doing that a lot more, like especially buying art and telling like from artists, and not from Target, and passing and telling my son, like, hey, make sure you pass this down.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much.
I want to know the other people.
Anybody have questions about the writing process?
There you go. Yay.
Go.
And I'm happy to talk about the construction of the book.
Yes, please say your name too.
Yeah, my name is Diego Gonzalez. I'm a second year here and part of the Vertigo cohort. This is the first time I'm hearing about your book, and I just want to know more about like, what's a moment in the writing process where you really just like, I mean, it could be the whole book, but like where you really just let it all out, like.
In what way?
Just like I want to focus on celebrating ourselves. So, like one moment you were proud of, or like you were just like writing it, and you're like,
and I'm like, oh,
wow,
this shit is
yeah.
good. Okay, let me tell you this part first. It's a true story. After every single chapter, every single one without fail, first draft, I would say, this is shitty. Without fail. Like, oh, this sucks. And then I put it down and then come back to it, right? And start working. I talk it out with Genesis and think about it and start adding to it till I got it to a better place, right? So you need to hear that part, because what you're reading is polished work. And even still, if I go back, I'm like, oh, there's something. But I work and work. Like, there's a lot of craft that went into it. Let me shout out Billboard 1988. Does not get enough love, you guys. So take a look at that one real quick. Billboard 1988, it looks different than the rest of the chapters. That is about my fall semester only. Is no one here? She's on her way. Okay. She was my research assistant for that chapter. It was about my fall semester only. And if you see, it's written in a series of vignettes, so short little blurbs there. And what I want to do is talk about what my fall semester was like at University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And then you'll see that each section is subtitled by a song. That song, every single one of those songs were released in 1988. And then you'll also see that I have the Billboard chart placement of that. Like, I went ham on that one, right? And so the thing you should know is that the song titles are commenting on the action. So there's My Prerogative, there's Hand to Mouth, Girl, You Know It's True. It's saying something about what happened. So that was a fun one. That was a real fun one. What happened is kind of sad, but the construction of it was really fun. Thank you for that question, Diego.
Hi, I'm Viviana, former employee of the one and the only, also a sophomore. I would like to know, like, just because your writing is so strong and so unique in its own way, would you ever consider writing a version of this, but as a children's book? Because obviously little kids can't, like, consume this book. Yeah.
Good question. I've been encouraged to do a graphic novel version of it. I'm not there yet mentally. I do know the book resonates not with that younger group, but with the tween group, and as is, and like don't change anything. A couple of people have told me that they bought adults have told me that they bought the book for themselves, and then their 12-year-old has written the book, and that's the biggest compliment. If a 12-year-old likes your stuff, like, ooh, right? But at this time, I don't have a plan to rewrite it. Yeah, maybe later, but not right now.
Hi.
Oh, hello.
So my name is Michaela Bethune, Professor Bethune. Hi. I wanted to take a brief moment before my question to identify myself as a first to go. And as I'm in African American Studies. So I introduce myself to colleagues as your favorite students favorite professor. Anyway, little shade. No, so thank you so much for sharing this with us today. I was just reading along. It felt like being a little girl and reading the tidbits and unfurling and unfolding all over again. It's just so much of so many people's stories. What I will say is, as a first-gen student, I remember college being just that great destination. Like, let me just get to college. And looking back now, I realize so much about that trek was really about getting away from something. Poverty avoidance, all sorts of things, just making it out, all of these different narratives. But once I got to college, and I took my time for every single one of the degrees, 5.5 for a bachelor's degree, 3 for a 2-year master's, and 9 years for a PhD. So
Same, friend.
Okay? At the end of the day, that paper is paper.
Right.
How do you begin to dream again when you have done the unimaginable?
You mean like right now?
Well, what advice should we give young folks who have made it to that destination that's really just a stop? How do we do it over and over and over again? How did you dream of instituting something that would have this broad of an impact? Why did you keep going to doctor? Like, how do we keep getting up? Listen, I should have said why, right? No, I'm kidding. But you get what I'm saying. What do we get? What do we have for them today?
I do. I want to acknowledge a lot of mentors that I had along the way. Because what needs to happen is that someone has to see it for you, or see it, or hold it until you can see it for yourself. And I think that was a role I played for so many people here. Megan was one of my first to go mentees when she was here. And there are times when I remember y'all like struggling to figure out your major and all this type of stuff. I was like, encouraging, but you got someone that's thinking beyond that, and that really helped me. I talked about particularly some Black women scholars at one of my institutions that were PhD holders. Let me tell you this, Dr. Bethune. So I remember being in a program. I was in a McNair program, Ed, and someone had said to us, write down all the people you know who have a PhD that are not your professors. I'm like, what? There's people walking around with a PhD? I didn't write nothing down. How did I know, right? But then I got to University of Maryland and I become friends with like these faculty members, and I'm babysitting their kids and things like that. So I see them in a different light, and so that helped me see something else. Like, that's the key, to see something else, right? Just like have your imagination. I think right now, especially, I just have to acknowledge the times that we're in. It's hard to dream right now.
Yeah.
Right? It's hard. You're like, I don't want to check my phone. There's gonna be some nonsense there, right? But it's more important than ever to dream, you guys, because what's happening right now is not sustainable. It is not sustainable. So we need the artists, we need the creators, we need the builders. We need y'all to just keep getting up every day, right? Just a little bit over time. This is how we got through 9 years of our doctorate program and 6 years of my undergrad program, is every single day, right? Not doing it all at once. That's just a small part of the answer. Again, I acknowledge my mentors, I acknowledge my family. Even I kid you not, to this day, my mom called me on the phone. She was like, oh yeah, I talked to Miss Betty, and she wants to know how's it going teaching 3rd grade. I'm like, I do not teach 3rd grade, right? It don't matter, right? But they just, all they know, you in California, you doing good. That's all that they know. And so I just have to hold on to like how they celebrate me, and just keep like getting up every day, you know. That's just a small answer. Anyone else on this side of the room?
Yeah, we have time for 1 or 2 more questions.
So hi everyone, my name is Jasmine. I'm an alumni from a while back now. But first and foremost, you just mentioned, that I was also in McNair, so that they had you write down all the people that you knew that had PhD. I do want to let you know that you're the first person who I know on a personal level that's an author. So thank you for that. And I actually want to highlight Ray, because Ray's the first friend I know that's a librarian. First friends I have are teachers, and I never thought that for myself. So
Where Liz go? Legacy, Liz. What's legacy?
yes, and so that's all absolutely amazing. And so my question to you is more of like, for example, I thought about writing a book myself, but just the idea of getting started is kind of intimidating, right? Like, I don't know who to reach out to, how you go, and I'm so glad you mentioned Genesis and reaching out to your own community to support you on that. I know other folks that like want to start like an entrepreneurship, right? Like start their own business. They don't know how to get that started. And so I wanted to learn a little bit more about like what got you to overcome that hurdle of like, actually, I'm going to go ahead, write the book, and what were the steps to make that happen?
Okay. If I don't answer it completely, just remind me. So first of all, the prologue chapter is called Inches. And it's symbolic, like I said before, it's about my fear of escalators as a kid. So I actually was afraid of escalators. I'm like, oh my, I was one of those kids that are like, oh, I don't know, the escalator's gonna eat me, kind of thing. Was anyone else have that fear of escalators? Like, I don't know where to put my foot. So that's a symbol, you guys, okay? Don't take it literally. Think about a next step that you have to take. Whether it's what you're gonna do after graduation, getting a job, or what have you, something you have not done before. And you're like, I don't know where to put my foot. And so I had to go back and read that for I had to think about that for myself, That's a moment that replays over and over in my life. Like, why did I get that PhD? I don't know what to do. So it's really helpful to talk to other people who have done it before. So that's what I did with this book. So I mentioned Erica Alfaro, who has written Harvesting Dreams. Her photo went viral a couple years ago. You may have seen this young woman standing in the strawberry fields with her parents. I don't know if you all saw that at all. Well, I actually knew her before she wrote that book. And so I was talking to her about it, and she was the one who encouraged me. The other person I had the opportunity to chat with as I was writing is Alejandra Campoverdi. She wrote a book called First Gen. She and I are friends, and so I was watching her go through her process as well. So once I decided, okay, I'm going to go ahead and tell the story, I just checked in with other people to see what that was like. I need you to know that publishing is an industry. It is a business. It is capitalism, just like anything else. And the reason why I say that is because you'll get this idea of like, only the best written books are bestsellers. That is not true. Many books are predetermined. It's predetermined that they're bestsellers. You think Beyonce's book, Mama's book wasn't going to sell money? There's a reason, right? And so for us, we're thinking, oh, I didn't struggle enough and I didn't accomplish enough. So therefore, I shouldn't tell my story. That's where most of us are right in the middle. But the books that are about first-gen experiences are Homeless to Harvard, Starving to Stanford, Poverty to Princeton. And if you didn't struggle enough, you weren't dirt poor, and you didn't go to an Ivy League school, then you're going to tell yourself that your story doesn't matter. So I had to have that positive self-talk that my story actually matters, right? And I'm not worried about how many books I sell. It's really about getting a message out. And then you get that authentic message that people will connect with it. And you do have to market and all that. But that's really what it took for me, is just tell my story. Like I said, there's craft and all that type of stuff. I did have an editor and all of that, but that's what it took for me. You asked me like, how did I get started? That's what it took for me. So confident.
We have time for one more question. Oh, right here. Okay, I got you. 1 second.
Hi, my name is Joanna.
Hey, Joanna.
As an organizer off campus, especially like during this administration, like did you face any repercussions while trying to start First to Go, and how did you deal with them?
Oh, while trying to start First to Go? So not did you say repercussions?
Yeah,
No, there was a little bit of pushback, and I'll say what it was, but not repercussions, right? So, and I'll just say that about the book too, just in terms of the chronology. The LMU is not mentioned in the book, just so you all know. That maybe that'll be book 2, like Godfather 2 or something. This is my origin story. But when it comes to starting the program, there was a person in like the Office of Research who said to me, LMU does not need a first to go program because students don't struggle here. Or some version of that. Chris, did I get that? It was some version of that. LMU does not need a first to go program. It's presumed that first-gen students struggle, and it's presumed that y'all don't struggle. There's so much wrong with that, right? So that fool's not here no more, right? And also I ignored him, and I also had an amazing mentor, advisor, Black first woman who also was first gen, who was in a position of power to tell me to keep going anyway. So shout out to Dr. Raylinda Brown. I hope y'all hear her name more, because she was a person who encouraged me to create the First to Go program. And she was a person who also insisted that the mentors also be first gen. That was really, really important. So actually there was a ton of support. And that's what I choose to focus on. That was just one negative voice. But I mean, you're getting to know me, I'm a pretty determined person. That wasn't stopping anyway. You're just a hater. So no, there wasn't like, oh no, it was actually pretty well received. But Chris and Ray and Paul Jimenez were here at the very beginning, and Mary Plum isn't here anymore. But those were the first mentors, those group of people. Can Lydia ask her question real quick?
Yes, of
Okay.
course, please.
Hi, my name is Lydia.
Oh my God. Oh yeah, for the rest of the people. I'm not like, I'm not trying.
I really resonated with the experience of like go figure it out, right? Like in your home, there was an assumption that you were fully capable, and in many ways you were, but sometimes you want a little bit of extra help, right? And you're talking also about mentorship. And so my question is, along the way, as you were finding those mentors, how did you determine who could be trusted? How did you cultivate those relationships to say, maybe I'll just speak for myself, getting out of your own way, I'm bothering that person, or those kinds of things. And so can you speak a little bit more toward cultivating mentor relationships and how to figure out who to trust and who to listen to?
Okay. I'm not going to say a whole lot because some of this is like a really pivotal chapter, but I can talk around it a little bit. I will also acknowledge I was a transfer student as well. And I transferred a couple of times, and that can make it even more challenging, just like, once again, sort of going in and out of different institutions. How do I answer this? That's why programs like First to Go are so important, to have that kind of vetting, because harm can be inflicted on students, right? And harm was inflicted on me, to be honest. And there's someone that I really looked up to, who I thought would be a good mentor for me. And it ended up being actually a traumatic experience. You know what's funny about that though, Lydia, is like, I hadn't even thought about writing that in a book until I told a friend about it. And she was like, you know that was trauma, right? And I was like, oh shit, maybe I should write about that in a book. Because you know what happens? A couple things. One, we don't even process it as trauma. It's like something else that happened because it happens so much. And then you think it's not important. So those moments really are important. If you want to know, it's on paper. The chapter is on paper if you want to skip ahead to that. So I needed to show negative examples, but in the same chapter, I show positive examples as well. So some of it is just trial and error, but it's so helpful to have someone like Lexi or what have you who'll tell you, or other students, honestly, other students too, will say, don't go to that person, don't talk to that person. Because people tell stories, you know what I mean? So the word of mouth certainly helps. It was, like I said, it was challenging for me because I had gone to like 3 different schools. I will say this, remember I said I was at 9 different schools by 10th grade. UCLA, which is where I went for graduate school, was the only school that I had gone to for more than 2 consecutive years in my life. I was in a PhD program before I was in one school for more than 2 consecutive years. And so when people were like, oh, what's your relationship to UCLA? That was the most stability I ever had. And by that time I could figure out like who to trust and who not to trust. But when you like flopping around is really, really difficult. So I had to rely on friends and word of mouth and things like that. So really, no one's ever asked me. Thank you for your questions. You guys
Thank
questions.
So, we're gonna have a closing statement by Fiona. I'm gonna come over here. You have a podium right there.
My research assistant for the book as well.
Hi. I guess I'll stand here. Ooh, this is intimidating. Hi, everyone. Hi. I'm C.O. Nelson. If you don't know me, I'm the programs coordinator for First to Go and McNair Scholars Program. Thank you. I'm seeing so many familiar faces, so I'm so happy to be here. But LT, I'm gonna say a couple words, okay?
Okay, all right.
Okay, prep yourself.
Thank you for preparing.
You're welcome.
You know me well.
So I never thought that I would meet one of my heroes. When I was younger, I always imagined heroes were people who just came in to save the day and make life a little more livable for everyone. I never expected to interact with anyone I considered a hero, unless they were family, of course. It was because heroes always seemed so far removed from the realities I had faced. My perspective changed when I met LT. I remember going through my own First to Go scholar experience and becoming more deeply connected to my first gen identity. I wanted to do more work to better understand the experiences of both Black first gen students and first gen students in STEM. The first gen identity that I never really explored prior to college had really helped me better understand the intersections of my own identities. When I expressed this to my mentor and lifelong sister, Lexi, she told me she knew someone I had to meet, the founder of First to Go. I was like, what? I was terrified. Like, the founder of this program I'm in, like, I'm scared. And I thought, like, why would she want to meet me, right? I'm just this random sophomore math major, and I was confused about my path at the time. And I was like, she'll have nothing to say to me, and I'll have nothing to say to her. Of course, those were just my internal thoughts. I'm first gen. I told Lexi, of course I want the meeting. Like, do it. Because as first gen students, we often feel that we can never miss opportunities because what if we never get them again? So Lexi connected us and we set up a time to chat on Zoom. I was extremely nervous on the Zoom call, and if you know me, I'm never nervous to talk. I love talking. And I was scared because I felt like I didn't have this expansive academic vocabulary, and I felt like I wasn't well versed enough in these topics. You know, I was coming to this change maker in the first gen world, and I barely knew anything about the first gen world. And so I hopped on the Zoom and I waited and I was like, okay, I'm trying to pump myself up. Like, I can do this. Like, it's not that scary. And I was like, okay, I got all the right words. I'd be writing notes because, you know, on Zoom, they can't see your notes, right? So I was like, I can write notes. She gonna know. And all of a sudden, Dr. LT Rease Miles joined, and it was my time to shine, okay? I can put it on. And so she hopped on the call and she was so relaxed. She was like, hi, with so much energy. She was like, it's nice to meet you, telling me a bit about herself. And she even asked how to pronounce my name, which if you've never seen my name, it starts with an X. So she asked before even trying to say it. And I was like, this is new. Okay. And then we started talking and I told her about my interests and she immediately was like, I think there needs to be more on like Black first gen experiences too. I was like, okay, we here. Like, I was like, we're seeing each other. And she spoke to me as a friend and someone I could connect with outside of like this academic space, right? Like, I wasn't used to that. Then she shared a little bit more about her story and I was completely in awe, but not for the reasons I expected to be in awe. LT's story was so similar to my dad's and other people in my family. Her path in higher education wasn't linear and it felt like she was just like me. I saw myself and my communities in her stories. And she wasn't this unapproachable, far-removed figure. She was someone you could relate to. She was the smart Black girl in the same way that I was the smart Black girl. I felt truly seen. From that day forward, LT has brought me in for countless opportunities to work alongside her. And get this, she reached out to me. Okay, I felt special. She even let me read a part of her book before it was released, which I appreciate forever and always. And I realized with this interaction, right, we're talking about mentorship, we're talking about heroes, like, I realized I didn't have to act like anyone else or be something I wasn't to get opportunities. Me being Sion was enough. Let me flip the page, sorry, I'm gonna get emotional. With that, LT, I'd just like to say how much I love you and how crucial your mentorship has been for me. Thank you for writing a book that allowed me to see myself in it. You taught me that I could be one of those heroes, or as I like to say now, change makers, that I once felt were so distant from reality. I could be the one transforming the world. Thank you for being so willing to speak with me. Like, I text LT, it's real personal over here. And
she's on the back of the book, by the way.
Thank you, shout you out. I love you. But thank you for just always being willing to talk with me about like being first gen, but not just being first gen, being a Black woman in higher education. And just loving me, just taking that time. But more than anything, LT, thank you for building and creating the First to Go program. The program you spearheaded back in 2010 has changed the lives of countless students, including myself. First to Go is not merely an academic program that assists and supports first-generation college students. It is a community that loves and nurtures first-gen students to the best of its ability. The program has evolved and grown over the years thanks to LT and our current Associate Director of First Gen Initiatives, Alexia Pineda. Yeah, shout her out because she likes to stand in the corner. You both have been essential to the growth and impact of this program. On this 15-year anniversary, I want to celebrate the radical and never-ending love you both have extended to this program. First to Go is a place for first-gen students that they can call home on campus when sometimes this campus doesn't feel like it was built for us. First to Go is a labor of love, and every student, accomplice, and ally has seen that through the events, the retreats, the advising sessions, the crying sessions, laughing sessions, and crash out sessions. This program prioritizes its students, their stories, their well-being above all else as they unpack the complexity of their first-gen identity. This program has become a deeply ingrained piece of my own personal story. Without First to Go, I would have never discovered my deep passion for higher education and the need to transform current policies that attack the identities and realities of first-gen students that we serve. First to Go was the first place on campus that made me feel like I didn't have to decompartmentalize my identities and choose the part of myself I wanted to care most about. It wanted me to be the most imperfect and authentic version of myself, even when I didn't know who that was. I owe this program so much, and I hope to be able to continue to give back to it as much as I can. First to Go, the program LT built and Lexi sustained and evolved, will always be a labor of love and a safe place where first-gen students, unsure of their path or their potential impact, can truly figure things out. Thank you so much for everything, and thank you for celebrating with us.
Quick raise of hands. If you've been loved by Sion before, raise your hand. Tall hands, tall hands. That's legacy work. This woman educated me, and Sion came along, and then all of you are here. And it came from the brainchild of Tiny Todd over here. Little T, Tiny Todd. I have to express
I wasn't intending on speaking, but then she kind of pushed me over in this direction. But as my T-shirt suggests, which I want to merch out for sure, right? Educated by a book nerd, a Prince fan, a cheerleader, if y'all didn't know she was a cheerleader, a rebel child, what did that say right there? Basketball lover, first gen disruptor, national expert, pop culture baddie, and above all, a smart girl. So, we love you. You created this program 15 years ago. 15 years ago, 2010.
I have not aged that long.
Her pictures still look the same. You can flip her from those pictures, actually. And we got so many years to come. And we got so much work to do. We've only scratched the surface of so much that we have to uncover. And I thank you all for wanting to do that together. And for uplifting 15 years of this work that could never have never existed if LT didn't come along. So with all the love, can we give a humongous round of applause?